he appointed more Black lifetime judges than any previous president in U.S. history, including presidents who served 2 terms. Hey, shout out to all of our subscribers and members here on the channel. My name is Reese Waters, and this is Street Politics. It is time to say goodbye to Grandpa Joe. We all know when it's time to take Grandpa home, but that doesn't mean we can't remember the good times. We all remember when Grandpa Joe first crossed our radar.
A man with a distinguished record. A man with fundamental decency. And that man is Joe Biden.
That is the most mileage anybody has ever gotten out of having a Black friend. I will tell you that. I believe Barack Obama might be the most powerful Black friend in the history of the world, where you can become president by virtue of your Black friend. But that is not to say that Grandpa Joe did not distinguish himself, because we all remember when he emerged and took over the presidency, we were in the midst of it. We needed rescue. And he gave us the American Rescue Plan, the strongest jobs recovery on record and the strongest economic recovery in the world, driving unemployment below 4% for 28 months, the longest stretch in over 50 years, creating nearly 16 million jobs since President Biden took office. The rescue plan also spurred the largest investments in fighting crime, preventing violence, and investing in public safety. 2023 saw one of the lowest rates of violent crime in over 50 years. The murder rate saw its sharpest decrease in history. And we also saw the largest small business boom in history, with a record nearly 20 million new business applications over the past 3 years, 55% higher than the year before the pandemic. The lowest child poverty rate in American history as well, thanks in part to the expansion of the child tax credit. We saw the Small Business Administration double the number of small dollar loans and loans to Latino and women-owned small businesses, and triple the number of loans to Black-owned small businesses since President Biden took office. That's right, triple the number of loans to Black-owned small businesses since President Biden took office. If I didn't know better, I would think he was kneeling in kente cloth in the Capitol. I would think that was him. But now, Nancy Pelosi, we gonna deal with you later. In 2023, federal contracting dollars to women-owned small businesses hit the highest dollar amount ever awarded. He issued a rule raising pay for 4 million workers by increasing who's eligible for overtime compensation when they work more than 40 hours per week. And in September 2023, during the United Auto Workers stand-up strike, President Biden made history, becoming the first president to walk a picket line. Now, I would like to challenge Trump. Yeah, I would like to challenge Trump to walk a picket line. What's that? He got bone spurs. He can't walk the picket line. The gender pay gap narrowed, with prime age women's labor force participation becoming the highest it's ever been. He also lowered costs, tackling junk fees, and promoted competition in our economy. And I would like to see that replicated by this upcoming administration. Biden-Harris lowered healthcare and prescription drug costs, including a $2,000 cap on prescription drugs for seniors and people with disabilities that will go into effect this year. A cap on insulin at $35 a month for seniors and people with disabilities, and new lower prices for prescription drugs as part of the Medicare drug price negotiation program. The administration also lowered utility bills by introducing tax credits up to $3,200 and direct consumer rebates of up to $14,000 for energy-saving home improvements like heat pumps, doors, windows, and insulation. I wonder when they're going to start giving credit to fathers that keep their family's toes frozen throughout the winter. Just right on the borderline. That is energy saving. I went through that as a kid, and I'm paying it forward. The Biden-Harris administration took extensive action to limit junk fees of all types, with President Biden requiring airlines to provide passengers with automatic cash refunds for canceled or delayed flights and lost luggage. That must be why Spirit is struggling. You know what I mean? Now Spirit and Frontier, now that's starting to make sense. Do you get a tax refund if your flight is delayed because they throwing hands?
You can't throw my hands on me. Back off from me!
Under the Biden-Harris administration, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or CFPB, that's right, Mark Zuckerberg, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
CFPB, like this financial, I don't even know what it stands for.
CFPB ramped up pressure on banks to examine their excessive overdraft and bounce check fee policies, leading many financial institutions to reduce or eliminate these fees. This saves consumers $6.2 billion per year. The CFPB also finalized a rule to close a long-standing loophole and slash credit card late fees from $32 to $8 and propose a rule to reduce overdraft fees from $35 to $3. And if you have ever overdrafted your account, you know all about that. You realize one time I did an inquiry at a bank that wasn't my own, and they charged me driving my account into overdraft just to see I was broke. They made me more broke just to see how broke I used to be. And you call yourself the bank of a... Further, the Federal Trade Commission proposed a cross-sector ban on junk fees, including those in event ticketing, auto dealing, and the restaurant industry. You know, I've always wondered why they get away with charging so many fees when you buy tickets to an event. Where's the money going? I tell you where it's not going: cleaning them bathrooms. The Council of Economic Advisors estimates that Biden-Harris administration's efforts to combat junk fees will likely save Americans more than $20 billion annually. And then you have the appraisal gap, the likelihood that homes in communities of color are undervalued compared to homes in majority white communities. That's been cut by roughly 40% since President Biden took action on appraisal bias. And yes, we will circle back on around to us. Then there's all the work that he did on behalf of women's health.
Consider the challenge accepted, court. But in the meantime, I'm signing this important executive order. I'm asking the Justice Department that, much like they did in the civil rights era, to do everything in their power to protect these women seeking to invoke their rights.
Today, March 18th, President Biden signed the largest executive order for women's health that we've ever seen. It covers everything from maternal health to menopausal health. Let's look. So within 90 days of the order, the Secretary of Health and Human Services shall launch a comprehensive assessment on the current state of the science on menopause to develop an evidence-based research agenda that will guide federal and private sector investments in menopause-related research. They're going to evaluate the evidence-based interventions and strategies to improve women's experiences and consider developing new element survey tools to expand the ethical and equitable collection of data on issues related to women's midlife health. Within 90 days of this order, members of the initiative shall report on the chair of the initiative on actions taken to strengthen research and data standards to enhance the study and analysis of women's health and related conditions. This is from 19th News, and they say part of the order also includes a focus on improving the ability to prevent, diagnose, and treat conditions that uniquely affect women. High on the list of priorities is endometriosis, which impacts an estimated 11% of American women of reproductive age. The Indian Health Service is also launching a series of focus groups on tribal beliefs related to menopause in American Indian and Alaska Native women to expand cultural-informed patient care. They will also start new research via the Human Nutrition Research Centers on the nutritional needs of pregnant and breastfeeding women. They'll also study the early warning signs of maternal mortality in women, infants, and children beneficiaries.
Furthermore, in late 2022, Biden signed the Respect for Marriage Act, which repealed the Defense of Marriage Act and codified same-sex and interracial marriage in the United States. That's right. You can rest easy, Clarence Thomas. There's the executive order advancing equality for LGBTQ+, preventing so-called conversion therapy, safeguarding healthcare, and programs designed to prevent youth self-harm. He addressed discrimination and barriers faced by LGBTQ+ youth, parents, caretakers, and families in foster care. Then there was the president's executive order, which directed HHS to conduct a study of how current eligibility standards for federal programs impact LGBTQ+ and other households. He directed the Department of Housing and Urban Development to launch a new working group on LGBTQ+ homelessness and housing equity, and an executive order charging the Attorney General with establishing a new clearinghouse within the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention to provide effective training, technical assistance, and other resources for jurisdictions to better serve LGBTQ+ youth involved in the juvenile justice system. Which leads me to black folks, the people who came and got Joe Biden when it looked like Bernie Sanders was going to smooth sail his way to the top of the Democratic ticket. Well, once Biden got in office, he didn't forget. The Biden administration announced that it invested a record $16 billion in historically black colleges and universities over the past 3 years. And yes, that dwarfs anything that Trump did. I've talked about it on several occasions. Nearly $4 billion invested in HBCUs through the American Rescue Plan and other COVID relief legislation. $2.6 billion invested from the Department of Education to build institutional capacity at HBCUs. According to the Biden administration, these efforts support the growth and sustainability of HBCU degree programs, increase and enhance human, technological, and physical infrastructure for research, strengthen positioning to secure direct partnership opportunities, and create sustainable fund development. Over $1.6 billion invested through federal grants, cooperative agreements, and other competitive funding opportunities. Almost $950 million to support HBCUs and growing research capacity and related infrastructure. Nearly $719 million in grant funding to expand STEM academic capacity and educational programs. Over $150 million in federal contracting opportunities awarded to HBCUs, including for research and expansion of STEM education programs at the Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Transportation, Department of Energy, and the U.S. Agency for International Development. $1.6 billion in capital finance debt relief for 45 public and private HBCUs, over $2.4 million to protect SERV funds to support HBCUs affected by more than a dozen bomb threats in 2022. Yes, more than a dozen in 2022. $2.8 billion in need-based grants and other federal programs, including Pell Grants, federal work study, and supplemental educational opportunity grants. Nearly $1.3 billion to support veterans attending HBCUs through the GI Bill and other college, graduate school, and training programs. And after all of that, Mississippi Valley State want to ask us for some money so they can come to the Trump inauguration. After all of that, I mean, really, how much was going to be enough, Mississippi Valley State? This is on the level of Jerry Rice wearing the chicken helmet.
So we made the taste mask.
I ain't forget. In January 2021, President Joe Biden not only issued the first ever executive order on advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government, but made it his first executive order on day one of his presidency. And in February of 2023, the president issued his second executive order on advancing equity. The new order reported on progress over the past 2 years, updated the charge to executive agencies and White House offices. Now that, of course, comes in addition to the lowered unemployment, record low unemployment for black people that Trump literally spent, and all of his sycophants spent the entire election cycle claiming was his, as well as the appraisal. He did a ton. Now, you may be saying to yourself, well, now that Trump is coming in, he has the ability to potentially undo a lot of what Biden went and did. We are already seeing that with the anti-DEI legislation. Well, his black judicial appointments become very significant in playing a crucial role as a judicial check on the second Trump presidency, who's vowed to dismantle government agencies such as the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division, a move that's likely to face a stiff legal challenge. Now, let's just take a look at Biden's judicial appointment, shall we? Joe Biden appointed 63 black judges, including 40 black women who are now serving lifetime appointments on the federal bench. Importantly, nearly 40% of those judges come to the bench with significant experience protecting and advancing civil and human rights. Which, by the way, that is more black lifetime judges than any previous president in U.S. history, including presidents who served 2 terms. One more time. He appointed more black lifetime judges than any previous president in U.S. history, including presidents who served 2 terms. And of course, that includes the first black woman appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson.
On this vote, the yeas are 53, the nays are 47, and this nomination is confirmed.
All right.
Since 2021, the Senate has confirmed 15 black judges to federal appellate courts, including 13 black women. Before President Biden, only 8 black women had ever served at this level of our federal judiciary, and no previous president appointed more than 9 black circuit court judges, even those who served 2 terms. President Biden had appointed the first black lifetime judges to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Louisiana, the U.S. District Court for the District of Hawaii, and the U.S. District Court for the District of Rhode Island. President Biden appointed the first black women to serve as lifetime judges on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of California, the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Indiana, the U.S. District Court for the District of Maryland, the U.S. District Court for the District of Oregon, the U.S. District Court for the District of Rhode Island. Oh, ain't no more U.S. District Courts? You get a district court, I get a district court. Nearly 40% of confirmed black judges are professionally diverse, having worked as either a civil rights lawyer or a public defender or both, or otherwise dedicated a significant portion of their careers to protecting people's civil and human rights. Now, here's a chart just to put that into perspective. And by the way, he made a couple more since this chart was made. What do you notice? I'm just curious. What do you notice when you look over on the right? When you look at the percentage of non-white appointments, a little difference between the blue and the red, huh? It's a little difference between the blue and the red when it comes to the non-white appointments. Hey, black conservatives, I want to show you something. Take your time. Huh? You caught outside during inauguration? Now, we're going to talk about Joe Biden's presidency. We have to talk about it all, which includes 2024.
If we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare.
What a lot of people will remember about Joe Biden is how he went out. One of the things they always tell me as a performer is it's about the impression that you leave. The impression that you leave is the most important thing, because that is the thing that sticks in people's minds. And the impression that a lot of people are going to walk away with from Joe Biden is the way that he went out, and not the litany of things that I just outlined.
Thank you.
Also, the fact that we were left flat-footed 90 days before the election, when he was removed from the top of the Democratic ticket and had just that amount of time to launch a challenger to Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Now, he absolutely deserves any criticism for the party being left in that position. One of the things that I said when he won the election in 2020 was we have 4 years to figure out a plan for 2024. Now, I don't know how much of that lies at his feet. I don't know how much of that lies at the Democratic establishment's feet. I don't know how much that lies at DNC's feet. Whatever, between them all, it comes up to 100. So he absolutely has some culpability with us ending up in this position. Also, the fact that so many people don't know or don't give him credit for all of the things that I just outlined, you can't divorce that from the man that we saw in 2024. The man that we saw in 2024 that was unable to launch a reasonable challenge to Donald Trump, it stands to reason, wasn't going to be flying around the country bumping his chest and getting people to acknowledge all of the many things that he in fact did accomplish during his presidency. Those two things are related. Now, that being said, when we last saw Joe Biden, he gave us a hell of a warning moving forward.
Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead.
And a lot of people mentioned during Jimmy Carter's funeral how appropriate it was that he would pass before Trump would take office, that it felt like a part of the country's decency was lost. And I could say the same thing about Joe Biden. I think it's extremely ironic that a man who accomplished all of the things that I just outlined, things for all Americans, not just for one group or the other. I mentioned consumer protections. I mentioned help with seniors. I mentioned Black people, women, LGBTQ plus, farmers, you name it. Okay. The kind of man who can do all of those things for all of those various groups, but yet not be standing on top of the mountaintop, pounding his chest and demanding he get credit for it.
Why isn't the Obama-manator doing anything to him? Run, boys!
Handing over the wheel to an administration that's going to go and sell said wheel to the highest bidder. They're going to turn around and flip that thing. That is pretty ironic and pretty representative of where we are. Yet, at the same time, I can't completely divorce Biden and the 4 years that he spent in office from us getting to a point where these people are now in power because of 2024 and because of how that handoff happened on behalf of the Democratic establishment. All of these things are related and they all are within play. But at the end of the day, Joe Biden's service to America is far more extensive than the last image that we had of him. And he deserves the credit for all the things that he did for so many people and the many, many times that he stood up for America and for democracy and for decency. Now, unfortunately, we don't seem to be at a place to appreciate those things right now, but we will. We will. If you don't miss Joe now, just wait until tonight, girl. No, if you don't know Joe by now, I don't have an appropriate song to. You gonna miss Joe Biden. That's all I'm saying. Hey, just wait. You already see it. If you think you're lonely now, wait till Biden leaves us. Oh, no. Hey, I want to thank you guys so much for supporting the channel as we approach a new administration and the changing winds of our media landscape. I want to invite you to join my channel. I think it's very important to preserve a space and a platform where I can communicate clearly and honestly, as all of our creators are hoping to maintain. Unfortunately, it looks like that ground may be evaporating, right? underneath our feet. So I wanted to let you know I'm going to continue to post on my channel, but I'll also be posting more in the membership section as well, so we can have clear and honest conversations. You can find the button to join right there on my page. There's also a link in the description box to all of my videos. I also want to invite you to join my mindfulness and meditation channel. That's my second channel. It is Way of Waters, because we gonna need it. We gonna need it. I might wear that thing out by the midterms.